Hello everyone, it's Rafael Gutierrez. Welcome to our channel. Today I'm going to talk about whether it's better to rotate on the heel or on the ball of the foot. And it's a question that came to me from someone who trains at the Shuhari Dojo in Perth. So it's kind of cool to know that there are people in Australia who are asking questions. I would love to have any questions and answer them. Yeah, but before I do, I'm actually going to mention a couple things. One is there's a lot of different ways to do different things. And just because someone does it one way doesn't mean that it's actually correct. Uh, and it's actually one of the big things that I will mention with books. Just on my table right now, I have the Physics of Martial Arts, actually, which is a good, I like it. The Parting Clouds, which is also a great book I really enjoy. Some people might say, oh, well, they're kind of competing books. Truth is, usually, well, as you can see, I tend to collect books, and there's actually more in my boxes because we're actually still in the middle of renovating, so I don't have all my books out. But you can see that I have a lot of books. A lot of them are actually different variations of different books, and for me, I actually feel that they're worthwhile because it sometimes gives you a different view of how someone is actually approaching something. I also do have a couple of other books here. One of them is the Manual of Structural Kinesiology, which I use to teach a class in applied kinesiology to college students. And I have an anatomy book here, which is Martini's anatomy, which again I also use to teach college students anatomy. I do have books that I prefer for different things. For instance, for anatomy, my preference is really Frank Netter's Atlas of Anatomy because usually when I'm looking for something, I'm looking for one thing, and I can actually go to the area. It's only pictures, so I can see the pictures, and boom, okay, that's what I was looking for. And so there is a little bit of difference of books depending on what you're actually doing. Now, some of the stuff I'm actually talking about, I do get from, not necessarily get from books, but I do use the books to look at different things. I also go to different websites. I ask people, well, what do you think of something? And try to see what the opinions are, try to find out why or why not. And from there, I actually make a model, using what I know of anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, and basic physics. And then I also go into PubMed and research all the injuries that happen, how they happen, any modeling that has been done. A lot of times I have to do my own modeling because most people are not interested in how a injury happens. They're more interested in how to prevent it. For me, I think you really need to know how it happens to prevent it, but I won't get into that. So there are a lot of different things that I tend to use when I make these videos. And like I said, I don't think one is a competition to another. I actually think pretty much the more information you have, the better. And so that's one of the big things. I'm actually looking at my little table here, which I'm going to use. So I may as well bring it up. Now, one of the things you'll notice is I do tend to do this live, at least the first time. That's why you'll hear me make mistakes and fumble around. I actually enjoy doing it live because, one, any mistakes, I can correct it right away. If anyone asks questions, I can actually answer them. And so that's the main thing about it. So if we're actually looking at the foot and trying to figure out how to use it, it's a good idea to look at a lot of different things. One of the first things I would tell you to look at is how normal gait changes. Normal gait is pretty much how you walk under normal conditions. Now, I know that some people will say, well, that's not the way I walk, but okay, that's not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about normal, but pretty much kinesiologists, physical therapists, physiotherapists, and pretty much anyone who studies the feet is going to say is common, is this is the way people walk. If you walk different, well, go argue with them, not me. So, big thing to actually know is this. I'm through a foot here. You can see my big toe here. This is medial. This is lateral. If you're actually walking, usually we can start with different phases of walking. I won't get into that. I'll just tell you, as you walk, you first do what they call a heel strike, which means the heel is the first thing that hits this area And that bone is actually called the calcaneus. And as you step, pretty much most of this is passive. Your body weight shifts forward, and eventually it moves to the base of the first and second the base of the first and second toes. Actually, it's called the heads of the metatarsals. And from there, what's happening is the tibia, the bone up here, is moving forward. So you're actually changing the center of gravity. You're moving forward with the step. Now, as you get to a place where both of the weight is pretty much balanced between these 3 points, you end up rotating the tibia medially, so it moves medially. So your center of gravity moves this way, which means most of your weight is going to be between the first and second metatarsals and the heel. As you continue to move a little forward, the heel actually lifts up and the foot rotates laterally, rotates outward, pretty much without you using much muscles. And so that's how the normal gait works. Then, by the way, if you continue, the foot actually comes up and you continue the cycle. I know that there's more steps to it. If you're a physical therapist or podiatrist, you might be up in arms telling me, no, I didn't go into every step. I know I didn't. You guys can tell people about that on comments. So that's one of the big things. Now, the other thing we need to actually look at when we're dealing with the foot and stability is how much surface area you get to the floor. Now, the more surface area you have the more contact you have with the floor, pretty much, the more balanced you are. Now, a lot of people will try to grab with their toes, and what they do is they tend to bring them in and crunch your toes. Now, one thing you'll notice with my fingers is you're actually decreasing the points of contact. Now, to do that, you have to use certain muscles. You have to use what are called the adductors, adding together, bringing together the foot. Now, if you want stability, what you want to use is your abductor groups. Abductors push it out. If you think about it, if you push out your toes, you have more contact with the ground. There are benefits and disadvantages to this. We'll deal with that later. As you do move forward here, you actually do need to use some of your flexors to maintain stability. That doesn't mean grabbing with your toes. It just means some pressure there. And I did mention stability because stability is really important. If you think about it, if you lose stability, you can get thrown, you can get swept, you will lose balance. So these actually all play together. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is what's known as a class 1 lever. A class 1 lever pretty much is a structure where you have a fulcrum point, you have a lever arm, and you pull on one side. If you actually look at the foot, your fulcrum point will be here. Your force will be over here, pulling this way. It's your gastrocnemius soleus muscles. And for you to actually move, you're usually using this rotation. Well, in the foot, it actually goes even farther. If you're moving from here, you're causing the rotation here. What it means is if you're moving from your first and second metatarsals, you're getting more distance getting into your target. If you use the heel, you're actually pulling your body away if you're rotating the foot there. So one of the things we see is if you're actually using this for punch, for power, that rotation coming on your first and second toes will actually pretty much move your center of gravity forward, producing more power. If you actually watch boxers like Mike Tyson punch, you'll notice that they rotate their foot, they even come off their heel. The heel actually will move without them even thinking about it. If you ask them how to punch, they don't tell you, oh, well, you rotate your foot. It just happens a lot of times because of the way that they're moving the rest of their body. And so that's one of the big things that is important. So this, using the ball of your foot and the first and second toes as your pivot point, really tends to work in a lot of different ways. One is it uses the benefits of lever. It moves you closer to the target, and it tends to work the same way as you would normally walk. If we do use the heel, we do, like I said, lose a little bit of distance. And the other problem is this. If we're twisting from here, there's actually an equation, force equals mass times acceleration. And levers tend to change how much force you need. And so what happens is, if you're using the lever here, you need less force per distance to rotate. If you're not using a lever, if you're just twisting here, well, it would be like taking the difference between taking a wrench and twisting a nut like this, or taking your fingers and trying to twist that nut with your hands. The other problem with that is that force goes up the entire leg. If you use the ball of the foot, if the force stops, it actually goes to the ground rather than upward. Uh, doesn't do anything to the ground. Uh, and that twisting on the heel could potentially do damage to the knees. So, like I said, there are different ways to do stuff, and there might be reasons why someone might want to turn their foot using the heel. If it's a little slower, it actually, if you have balance issues, it might be a bit easier for you to maintain that. But when you're actually doing dynamic movements, when you're moving and you're adding power, it makes more sense to use the ball of the foot in the first and second toes. No, it's the first and second toes. Don't go on the fifth toe because that can actually cause a fracture of the pretty much of the foot. So we do have a lot of different reasons why rotation should be at one place versus the other. But again, there might be someone who can see a reason for why to turn another way. I don't know those reasons, so I won't talk about them. So, with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you will share it. You will recommend it to people. You will subscribe if you want. Oh, by the way, I should mention, I just realized that I finally have more than 500 subscribers, which to me is really cool. I've never had so many, so congratulations. Yay me, right? I hope you enjoy this. And again, any questions, put them on comments, and I will do what I can to answer it. I hope you have a nice day.